I didn't mention it in my cold open, but I'm going to mention it now, and that's Caitlyn Clark herself of the WNBA. Let's get to the WNBA and this sensational rookie from the Indiana Fever who continues to be box office.
Stephen A.
Smith.
Smith just said the quiet part out loud about Caitlyn Clark's Nike deal, and the WNBA is definitely not going to like what he confirmed. The Christmas Day commercial with Travis Scott and the Kelce brothers wasn't just marketing. It was a statement. Caitlyn Clark has officially outgrown the league she plays in. Stephen A. connected the dots between the money, the jealousy, and why this could change women's basketball forever. But is he right about the jealousy, or is he stirring drama where none exists? Let's break down what actually happened this week, because the timing of every move matters.
Hey, Caitlyn! Can you make it from there? Hey, Caitlyn, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it from there. No chance.
Caitlyn, from me, don't let.
You got it. I'm not even gonna ask.
Hey, Caitlyn from here might be the president. Am I right?
Whatever, Che.
From right here.
From there!
From anywhere.
All right, well, looks like she can do it.
Nike dropped the From Anywhere commercial on Christmas Day, and that's not random. It's the exact same date they released Michael Jordan's first Christmas ad, 40 years ago. Nike doesn't do coincidences with dates like that. They're drawing a direct line between Jordan and Caitlyn Clark, signaling exactly how they value her. But here's what set Stephen A. Smith off. The commercial didn't feature WNBA players. No legends like Cheryl Swoops or Diana Taurasi. Instead, it starred Travis Scott, Jason Kelce, and other cultural heavyweights. Nike made a deliberate choice to position Caitlyn alongside pop culture icons while bypassing the WNBA ecosystem entirely. Stephen
Here's
A.
what made Stephen A.
said this was intentional. Nike is sending a clear message. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the WNBA's validation anymore. She's bigger than the league, a global brand standing on her own, independent of women's basketball. And that reality is about to shake the fragile balance of the WNBA to its core. Initial reports pegged her Nike deal at $28 million over 8 years, already making her the highest-paid endorsement athlete in WNBA history by a huge margin. But Stephen A. revealed that figure is actually laughably conservative compared to what's really going on behind the scenes.
Hey, Caitlyn, you're a pretty good basketball player, but you make it from here.
Jason, show them how you make it rain from downtown.
Can you hit it from here, Caitlyn? Gotta make your free throws.
Oh!
From right here. Yep, baller!
Bet you can't do that, Caitlyn.
Anyone else?
Industry insiders are now projecting that Caitlyn Clark's signature shoe line alone could generate $150 million in revenue within its first 3 years. Let that sink in. $150 million from a single shoe line. For context, the average WNBA salary is around $76,000 a year, with the max under $250,000. Caitlyn Clark's shoe business will generate more than entire team payrolls combined. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. Stephen A. Smith pinpointed this staggering financial disparity as the core of all the tension we've seen. It's no longer just basketball. It's one player generating more wealth from a single product than most WNBA players will earn in their entire careers. Stephen has said, "Human nature is undefeated. You cannot introduce that kind of wealth gap into a competitive environment without breeding serious resentment." He went nuclear on the jealousy narrative, blunt and unflinching. Resentment toward Caitlyn Clark is guaranteed to explode after this commercial. Veterans who built this league, who flew commercial, played in empty gyms for decades, they feel erased. They did the heavy lifting only to watch someone walk in and instantly get the Michael Jordan treatment. Stephen A. warned that the physical fouls, the hard checks, the freezing out we saw last season were just the warm-up. Now that Caitlyn is officially the face of Nike basketball across men's and women's sports, the target on her back just grew tenfold. The league is about to get messy, and it all comes down to money. But here's why Nike went this aggressive. They're not a charity. They're a data-driven machine making calculated bets. They saw the ratings Caitlyn generated, the jersey sales, the lines wrapping around the block in Indianapolis. They saw the proof and they moved accordingly. Nike realized immediately that Caitlyn Clark is a unicorn, someone who transcends the sport. While the WNBA was spreading marketing dollars across all 12 teams, trying to promote parity, Nike said, "Forget that noise. We're going all in on the star." Stephen A. Smith has criticized the WNBA's handling of Caitlyn from day one, accusing them of fumbling the opportunity by suppressing her stardom to keep other players happy. This Nike commercial exposes the league's massive strategic failure. The WNBA tried to play nice, saying, "We're a league of many stars." Nike looked at the data and said, "No, you have one megastar and we're treating her like it." The contrast is embarrassing. Nike positions her as a global icon, while the WNBA treats her like just another player who needs to pay her dues. Stephen A. argued this proves the league has completely lost control of the narrative. Caitlyn Clark is now bigger than the WNBA. When Travis Scott is in your commercial, you no longer need approval from veterans. You've transcended the sport. You're a cultural phenomenon. Stephen A. even drew a direct line between this and the controversies of the past few years. The Kennedy-Carter hip check, the Angel-Reese rivalry the media hyped, the Olympic snub that made no sense. He says each was a symptom of the same disease: jealousy, resentment, and an organized effort by the establishment to humble Caitlyn and remind her she's not special. The Olympic exclusion looks particularly absurd now. USA Basketball left the most marketable athlete in women's basketball at home, claiming she needed more experience. Meanwhile, that same athlete is now leading a Nike campaign bigger than the entire Olympic marketing push combined. Stephen A. called out the hypocrisy live on air. The gatekeepers tried to show her she wasn't above the system, and what happened? She became more famous, wealthier, more influential, while they looked petty and out of touch. Stephen A.'s take is essentially a victory lap. He's been saying for 2 years that the WNBA mishandled their biggest star, and now Nike has proven him right. The corporate world recognized what the basketball establishment refused to. Caitlyn Clark is generational, and trying to suppress that only made her bigger. Now, let's talk about the shoe, because that's what fans are waiting for, and it's a massive piece of the puzzle. The Caitlyn Clark signature shoes drop in spring 2026, and the hype is already insane. Getting a signature shoe is the rarest honor in basketball. Only a handful of WNBA players have ever had one: Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu. But the scale of Caitlyn's launch is completely different. Industry analysts aren't comparing this to a typical WNBA shoe release. They're comparing it to the original Air Jordan launch. Lines around the block, resale markets going wild. Nike has unveiled the interlocking CC logo, plastered on hoodies and billboards nationwide. This logo matters. It brands her as a standalone entity. When you see the Jumpman, you think Jordan, not the Bulls. When you see the interlocking CC, Nike wants you to think Caitlyn. Not the Indiana Fever, not the WNBA. That subtle distinction drives the wedge even deeper. Caitlyn Clark is becoming a brand that exists independently of the league she plays in. Stephen A. Smith warned that this kind of leverage is dangerous for the WNBA. They need her far more than she needs them. If Caitlyn retired tomorrow, the league's valuation would plummet. Harsh? Yes. True? Absolutely. The next TV rights negotiations are essentially Caitlyn Clark negotiations. Networks aren't paying for the league, they're paying for her. Everything else is just filler. Now, let's address the uncomfortable part that Stephen A. never shies away from: race. He's pointed out repeatedly how it factors into the coverage and reception of Caitlyn Clark. Part of the resentment stems from a white player from Iowa being anointed as the savior of a league that has been predominantly carried by black women for 25 years. The Nike deal amplifies this dynamic, putting the full weight of their marketing machine behind Caitlyn while other stars get comparatively less promotion, fueling narratives around privilege and who gets opportunities in sports marketing. But Stephen A. counters with cold, hard business logic. Caitlyn Clark fills seats, sells jerseys, and drives TV ratings to heights the WNBA has never seen. His perspective is that players should be thanking her for raising salary cap potential instead of freezing her out. The rising tide lifts all boats. Better charter flights, higher quality hotels, more media attention, bigger salaries, but players are too focused on who's steering the boat rather than enjoying the ride. He calls that short-sighted and self-defeating. The inclusion of Travis Scott and the Kelce brothers in the commercial highlights another massive shift. Nike is signaling that Caitlyn Clark is a crossover star. She appeals to NFL fans, hip-hop fans, and people who've never watched a single quarter of WNBA basketball. This is marketing gold. The WNBA has been insular for decades, focusing mostly on its existing fan base. Caitlyn shattered that wall. Stephen A. emphasizes that this crossover appeal makes her untouchable. If WNBA players try to rough her up or play dirty next season, the backlash won't just come from basketball fans. It will come from the general public, who now see her as a mainstream celebrity. Let's break down Nike's strategy timeline. It shows just how calculated this rollout has been. When Caitlyn came out of Iowa, the bidding war was intense. Under Armour wanted her. Adidas made a massive push, but Nike knew they couldn't lose her. They saw the long game. The delay in releasing her shoe until spring 2026 was deliberate. They wanted anticipation to build, her professional career to unfold, narratives to develop, villains to emerge, so that when the shoe finally dropped, it would feel like the climax of a perfectly scripted movie. Stephen A. implied Nike played the WNBA brilliantly. They let the league provide the drama, and now Nike is capitalizing on it with merchandise. There's also the Sabrina effect to consider. Sabrina Ionescu had a successful Nike shoe launch, but reports suggest Nike is preparing 5 times the inventory for Caitlyn's launch compared to Sabrina's. That's staggering. Nike is betting this shoe will cross over into lifestyle wear, like Jordans or Dunks. If kids are wearing Caitlyn Clark's shoes to school, the mall, concerts, she becomes everywhere, utterly ubiquitous. Let's break down Nike's strategy timeline. It shows just how calculated this rollout has been. When Caitlyn came out of Iowa, the bidding war was intense. Under Armour wanted her. Adidas made a massive push, but Nike knew they couldn't lose her. They saw the long game. The delay in releasing her shoe until spring 2026 was deliberate. They wanted anticipation to build, her professional career to unfold, narratives to develop, villains to emerge, so that when the shoe finally dropped, it would feel like the climax of a perfectly scripted movie. Stephen A. implied Nike played the WNBA brilliantly. They let the league provide the drama, and now Nike is capitalizing on it with merchandise. There's also the Sabrina effect to consider. Sabrina Ionescu had a successful Nike shoe launch, but reports suggest Nike is preparing 5 times the inventory for Caitlyn's launch compared to Sabrina's. That's staggering. Nike is betting this shoe will cross over into lifestyle wear, like Jordans or Dunks. If kids are wearing Caitlyn Clark's shoes to school, the mall, concerts, she becomes everywhere, utterly ubiquitous. Bigger than the league itself. Stephen A. compared Caitlyn's rise to the early NBA with Jordan or the PGA Tour with Tiger Woods. The establishment always resists anomalies. They hate them because they expose limitations, but eventually the anomaly wins. Nike has placed its bet on the anomaly, and they're going all in. We also need to address the freezing out allegations from last season. Multiple games suggested teammates ignored Caitlyn or opponents defended her with excessive force while referees looked the other way. Stephen A. believes this Nike deal will act as a protective shield. Now that hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line for a corporate giant, the league cannot afford to let their asset get harmed. He hinted that we might see tighter officiating next season, and perhaps the league office stepping in to protect their investment. If that happens and Caitlyn starts getting superstar calls, locker room resentment could go nuclear. The inclusion of the Kelce brothers was another strategic masterstroke. Representing the NFL machine, the biggest sports entity in America, Nike is signaling that Caitlyn is big league. She's not a niche athlete. She's Sunday night football level. This infuriates purists who want to keep the WNBA insular but excites capitalists who want the sport to grow. Stephen A. firmly stands on the side of growth, arguing that anyone blocking this expansion is opposing the sport's future. Stephen A. confirmed that Caitlyn Clark's Nike deal isn't just big. It's league-breaking. The $150 million projections, the crossover appeal, the complete bypass of WNBA validation. All of it points to one reality. She has outgrown the league before most even realized she was a threat. If you want more breakdowns of how money and jealousy are tearing sports apart, smash that like button and subscribe, because next season is going to be absolutely explosive.